The top people in the arts and business all share one thing: a very strong sense of aesthetics and the discipline to commit to it. So, exactly what is aesthetics and how do you develop yours? This is a bust of Beethoven that sits on my piano. I made it when I was 12 years old. Now, my taste in many things has changed over the years, but my taste in this has not. I still love it. And in trying to figure out why, I think I've discovered something important about the difference between taste and aesthetics, about commitment, and about doing the work that makes any life feel distinctly yours. When I was 12 years old, I would make these busts and I sold them to music stores and furniture stores in the Seattle and Bellevue area. And they were very popular. I sold a lot of them. It's kind of exciting to think that even today, all over the world, there are still some of these busts sitting in people's homes. I had forgotten about these busts till I ran across one in storage. What immediately hit me is that I absolutely love the look. I love the look as much today as I did when I was 12 years old. It has a very classic patina. And rediscovering this bust after 40 years got me thinking about what aesthetics actually is. It's not just a surface polish or an architectural detail. I think it's much more fundamental than that. Aesthetics is the bar that we set for ourselves and our teams. There's usually three constraints: time, skills, and money. And it's very rare that you have all three at the same time. But there was one organization I worked with that did push all three perfectly, and that was when I've worked as music director for Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil can hire the people that have the maximum skill sets. They allot the time necessary to develop their projects, and they are also very well funded. But in most situations, you're going to have to make a choice of which of those are most important. There's a great saying that's common with techs backstage. They say, you can have it fast, you can have it cheap, or you can have it high quality. Pick two. So what happens when your aesthetic drive, your bar, is higher than where your skill set is? We've all experienced this in business and in the arts, especially when we were first starting out. We had a vision of what we wanted to achieve, but what we were capable of doing wasn't there yet. What's the answer to this? Really, the only way you're going to learn is by doing it. So you have to iterate, you have to create. True in business and also true in the arts. You're going to look back in 10 years at what you created now and say, wow, I could do so much better now. That's the whole plan. You're going to improve as you go along. But the only way to improve your skill set is with the experience of doing the projects. You can do planning, but as most of us know, a business plan for a business is only going to go so far. At some point, you have to start that business, and that's when you find out the things that need to change. If you keep working on projects and iterate to improve and always go back and do a decompression of what went well and what went bad, what you can improve on, you are going to get better over time. And I've had this experience. Years later, people will say, wow, how did you know this? And you'll kind of smile and say, I don't know, but somewhere along the line, you learned it working on a project, not just thinking about it. Now, here's where it gets harder. There can be moments of creative frustration when your own aesthetics don't match your own skill set. But most often, this creative frustration happens in group environments where there's a mismatch in the team of skill sets and aesthetic bars. The corporate culture of Cirque du Soleil is that everyone just knows that they're striving for the highest bar possible. It never has to be said. It's just understood within the Cirque du Soleil corporate culture. But that kind of commitment doesn't just show up at the top of the industry. It can show up in so many small ways. And in a sense, I feel that I may have figured this out when I was 12 years old. When I rediscovered this bust, I thought I would look to the bottom to see how I had signed it. And I noticed I didn't put any signature on the bottom. It's blank. And then I realized, of course I didn't sign it, because even at age 12, I realized I did not have a right to sign this bust unless I actually created it, because I only painted it. I didn't sculpt it. And this sense of commitment to honor the work that artists do is something I still take very seriously to this day. I noticed something else on the bottom. These protective felt patches to protect the furniture that the bust was on. In this version, there are 4 little felt pieces, but you can notice it's kind of ugly. In a later version of the bust that I found, the entire bottom was covered with one large piece of green felt. It looked more beautiful and it protected the furniture more. A small step, but even at age 12, I was experimenting with iteration to make improvements aesthetically and maybe even ergonomically. To my 12-year-old self, well done. Here's what I've come to think aesthetics actually is. It's not a preference you have, it's a commitment you keep. And the things that survive those changes of mind are the things that will define you. Style is the residue of the aesthetics that you would not let go of. If there's an artist where you really enjoy their style, that artist didn't wake up one day and just choose that style. That style developed over many, many iterations of choosing commitments to aesthetics. And over time, you're going to have different influences and different outside voices that will tell you, give up this aesthetic. This is important. You could save money if you didn't do this. And each one of those is a decision for you to make. Right now, I want you to think about a large company that you really admire. And now think to their early years and think of an example where they stuck to an aesthetic commitment despite everyone telling them not to. And I can think of 5 companies, and every one of them has an origin story where the founders committed to a specific aesthetic and did not budge. If everything was taken away from you, which aesthetic would still be true for you, and which aesthetic would you still commit to? There's an answer in there for yourself about your life direction. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's in business or the arts, because they all come from the same core. My Beethoven bust here. Made it when I was 12 years old, and I still love the look of it. Look around your room. What things do you have that are still there from 10, 20, 30 years ago? They're not there because you forgot to throw them out. That's worth paying attention to. It's not just nostalgia. It's a choice you've been making over and over and over about the aesthetics you want in your life. And you may have been making those choices without being aware or without naming it. But once you can name it, you can build it. This Beethoven bust has survived over 40 years of changes of mind. What's going to survive yours?